Hi everyone, this is Amy, and our work today is going to involve making inferences and then picking out the details in the reading that helped us make those inferences. So if you're not sure what all that means, no worries, I'm going to explain it here in this video. I just wanted to also mention that today for our practice, we're going to be using this little excerpt. So an excerpt, if you don't know, is a little tiny piece. So we're going to be using an excerpt from the novel Hatchet by Gary Paulson, but we are not reading this whole novel. We're going to read like 3 paragraphs of it for our practice. And then later you're going to be reading a story called Thank You, Ma'am. It's by Langston Hughes. And you'll be doing these same kinds of things in that story that we're practicing today. All right. So let's just get into it. Our first box is blue, and that is a to-do box, and you are already doing it, so good job. You're watching this video. The next box is a green box, and that is the big idea. So this is where we get the information we need in order to be successful in the assignment. It's what we're learning. So what are we learning today? This is what we're learning. All right, the big idea. So you can read this all yourself too. Remember, these videos, of course, can be paused. If I go too fast, you can rewind, all those things. You can also Google Meet with me if you have questions when it's over. So our big idea is about drawing inferences. This is something that we do every day while we read, while we talk to people, while we watch TV and watch movies, even watch YouTube videos. We're always making inferences. It's just a natural part of communication. What is an inference? Well, that's a conclusion that we draw using things that we already know. We call that prior knowledge and new information. So we take stuff we already know about the world and we mix it with stuff that we just learned because we read it. In this case, because we read it, but sometimes it might be because you saw it in a movie or you heard someone say it. And you put those pieces of information together. So what did I read? What do I already know? Let me put those together and I come up with some new idea. So for example, if a mother gives her young child some blueberries for the first time and the child puts the blueberry in its mouth and it chews it and ew, the kid spits it out. Now, the child didn't speak. The child didn't say anything to his or her mother, right? But the mom can make an inference. She can infer that the child does not like the blueberry because she took what she saw, which was the kid spit the blueberry out, and then she took what she knows about life and people and human experience, right? That if we don't like the taste of something, sometimes we spit it out, right? Especially if you're a baby and you haven't learned your manners yet. And she can put those two ideas together and come to the conclusion that her child does not like blueberries. The child never says, excuse me, mother, I do not like blueberries, right? But she can figure that out by watching the kid's actions and putting it with what she knows. All right, we do that when we read as well. Sometimes when we're reading, the text doesn't tell us exactly what we need to know, and then we have to draw inferences, just like this mom and her child and the blueberries. A good strategy for drawing inferences is to think, it says this, and I know that, so, right? So if this mother-child situation were something you read about, you could say, in the story, it says that the kids spit the blueberries out. I know babies tend to spit out food they don't like, so I can infer that this child doesn't like blueberries. All right. It helps you think, doing this helps you think about what the text is telling you and what you already know, and then you can draw an inference. You can make an inference. So oftentimes, and this is the case, it's going to be with Thank You Ma'am when we do Thank You Ma'am on Wednesday and Thursday. You're going to be asked which details in the story support the inference you made. Sometimes you're asked what details in the story support the theme, right? We've done that as well. So you're going to have to pick out the details. In the blueberry scenario, the details might be the baby spit the blueberries out. That helped me figure out, oh, this baby doesn't like blueberries, right? When you're picking out the details, sometimes you're going to want to quote the text. You're going to want to use the exact words that the author used. If you do that, when you're quoting a text, you must use the author's exact words. That's fine. It should just be short, though. Don't quote a big, long chunk. It should be very short. I would say for this week's work, a sentence or less, like something very short. And if you need to explain more, then explain more in your own words. Don't just grab a big chunk of the text and call it your answer, because that doesn't really show that you know the answer. All right, anyway, when you quote a text, use the author's exact words and then also use quotation marks around it, right? Quotation marks, the two little lines at the top and bottom. So like if I were to put the words quotation marks in quotation marks, this is what it would look like, right? These two little lines up here and the two little lines up there, those are quotation marks. I know sometimes it's easy to forget which punctuations are called what. All right, if you're quoting from a book or something, also include the page number. All right, and we can get into that more another time. Here's another blue box. Blue boxes are to do. So read the excerpt from Gary Paulson's Hatchet on the next page and then answer the questions. Remember to use the inference strategy and remember how to quote a text. If you forgot, you can look in the green box above. So that inference strategy, right here, a good strategy for drawing inferences is to think, all right, the text says this. I also know this. So if I put those together, I come up with this idea. The text says the kids spit the blueberries out. I know babies spit food out that they don't like. So this baby doesn't like blueberries. All right. All right. And then also it says to use the how to quote a text. So that just means also if you're quoting it, it goes in quotation marks. And if you're quoting it from a book, you include the page numbers. All right. So your work is going to be to read these three little paragraphs. That's not that bad. You can do that. And then answer these questions. How does Brian feel because of the fire? The text does not say this directly, so you have to make an inference. So in this box, you're going to tell me how Brian feels because of the fire. Because of the fire, comma, Brian feels blah, blah, blah. Number 2, which detail from the text best supports your answer? In other words, which sentence was most useful in helping you figure that out? Highlight your answer. So here you don't even have to go through and discover it for yourself. It's multiple choice. You just need to know, how did he feel about the fire? And then which one of these details, A or B, helped you figure out how he feels about the fire? Okay, was it this detail that helps you figure it out? Oh, that helps me know how Brian feels about the fire. Or does this detail help you know how Brian feels about the fire? All right. Number 3, why was that sentence useful in drawing an inference about how Brian felt? So what was it about the sentence you chose up here that helped you figure out how Brian feels about the fire? So you have to explain it. This sentence helped me understand how Brian feels about the fire because blah, 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 because it explains this, or because it made me understand this, or something like that. So you'll type that answer in here. Number 4, how did Brian get to where he is? So when you read these 3 paragraphs above, you'll see what I mean. So he's in a situation, he's in a place, and he's in a situation. How did he get there? How did he find himself in this place and situation that he's in? What happened? It's not part of the story, but well, it is part of the story, but it's not part of this excerpt, part of what we're reading. But you can figure it out through making an inference. And then the last question, find and quote a sentence that helps you understand how Brian got to where he is. So what's your evidence? What detail from the story helped you answer number 4? You're going to put that down here, and you're going to quote the exact sentence. So here you're going to start with a quotation mark, right? And put Gary Paulson's exact words, so you could even copy and paste here, because when you're quoting in quotation marks, it has to be the exact words. Um, when you put something in your own words, you don't include quotation marks. So then you would put Gary Paulson's exact words in here, blah, 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 like this, and then end it with a quotation mark. All right. And that is the end of your work for today. If you have questions or concerns, please Google Meet with me. That is a much faster way to get an answer than an email. If you decide to email me, I will of course get back to you, but that's going to take a little longer. So that's it for today. Have a great day.